In this video, we'll take a look at how to obtain data from a text file. In the lesson text for Lesson 17, I make a case for why it's still important to understand fundamental input-output operations when it comes to text files. And in a nutshell, it's simply because in the IT world today, even though there's better ways to transfer data around, the text file still seems to be one of the preferred method to move data between departments or between companies, because many of those companies are using systems that are too costly to change to take advantage of web services and XML. So in this lesson, what I'm going to show how to do is to open up a text file, and I've created a sample text file called test.txt, which has some 3 rows of data. And in the first pass, I'm just going to open up each one of the lines and display them in a message box. And then in the second pass, I'll take each one of the lines and actually split them up into an array, because as you can see, the values here are separated by commas. So we'll take a cue from Lesson 17's readings and use the split function to turn each line into an array, and then store each of those arrays into an array list. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I'm going to do is create a new project. We'll create this at begin1/lesson17 on the hard drive. And what I'll do is open up the toolbox and drop a button on my form, just so we can get into the code view and do something meaningful. Let's go ahead and get rid of this and move this over a little bit. First thing that we'll want to do is import the namespace for system.io. So import system.io, and this namespace has classes that allow us to open up and modify files, and also change around directories, get a listing of files and directories, and so on. And by the way, I/O stands for input and output. So what I'm going to do here is dim line a string, dim contents a string, and we're going to need some type of indicator that we're done reading our text file. So we're going to create a boolean called finished and set its default value equal to false. So the line variable is going to hold each individual line of text that's retrieved from our text file. Once we verify that there's actually something in that line, we'll add it to our contents variable. So while not finished, in other words, while finished equals false, line equals, and that brings up a good question. How do we actually get the values out of the text file and put it into each individual line? And to do that, what we're going to have to do is create a new instance of the stream reader class. So we're going to go dim sr as new stream reader, and here we're going to pass in the path where our text file can be found. So in this case, I'm going to hard code it, and again read my instructions in the text in Lesson 17 on why it's a very bad idea in a production environment for a real application that you're going to create to hard code strings like I'm doing right now. However, for simplicity's sake, I hope you understand that I'm just doing this so we can focus on actually opening a file instead of talking about best practices that we've already discussed a few lessons ago. So begin 1, lesson 17, and I believe it was test.txt. Okay? So the stream reader is going to be responsible for both opening up the text file and also allowing us to read each individual line. So now we should be able to do line sr.read line. Now we'll need to perform a check and to see if anything was saved in that line of text. And to do that, we'll go if line is nothing, then So we're checking here to see if there's anything in the line. If there isn't, then we're going to set finished equals to true. We're done. Otherwise, what we'll do is put that line, add it to our contents variable. And at the very end, what we can do, or actually at the end of each loop, let's go ahead and show the progression as the contents variable grows to include all the lines that are inside our text file. So that should do it. Let's go ahead, save this, and run our application. Again, this assumes that I have the test.txt in the right place on my hard drive. So you can see the first pass through our while loop is one Jim Michael CEO. That's the first line of text that's retrieved using our stream reader. The second time, you can see that we get an additional line, 2, comma, Steve Vandelay, comma, CFO, and then the third pass, we tack on 3, Mike Malone, comma, COO. Now, since this text file was intended to be used as a set of records, we want to put this into an array. However, there's no easy way to put the values of the text file that would be a two-dimensional array with 3 elements in each dimension. No easy way to convert that from its text file format into a multi-dimensional array. But what we can do is we can split each of the individual lines into an array and then add those into another type of collection called an array list. And so we're going to do that right now. So let's make a few changes to the code as we have it right now. First thing that we're going to do is dim line values, and these will actually be a single dimension string array. Then I'm going to change contents from being a string to being an array list. And we'll need to change this else statement. Line values equals split line, and then we put in the delimiter, which is a comma, and let me just do one more thing. Whoops. It should be line values. There we go. And then contents dot add line values. So let me explain what we did here. Essentially, the only thing we really changed was that we added line values array and then changed contents to an array list. And so in the else statement, when we're actually assigning the value that we were assigning just contents plus equals line, this time we're actually turning that line into an array by using the split function, and we note the delimiter is a comma, so it'll take the value in line and find every place there's a comma, and then it will create a different element of the array for each item that's between commas. We put the resulting array that is returned from the split function into a line values string array, and then add that array into my array list called contents. So that's how we would take values from a text file and turn them into usable data. Let's now perform the opposite function and loop through this array list of arrays of strings and print out that into a text file. So the first thing that we're going to do is dim SW as stream writer, and then we'll pass in the name of the text file. Here we'll do it again, begin 1 lesson 17 test 2 dot text. And now we'll loop through each of the items in our array list called contents. So for for counter equals 0 to contents, count -1 because it's 0 based. And the count will return back the actual value, not the value of the indexes. So in this case, what we're doing is looking at our array list and getting the first, second, or third element. And after we get it, then we need to convert that value into an array of strings. Once we have the array of strings, we assign it to our line values, which is just a temporary variable we used in the previous aspect of our example here. We can still continue to use it. And this time we're going to call sw.writeLine and so then we'll take each item in the array and add them back and delimit them this time by a dash instead of a comma. And finally, in our example, we're going to need to close everything down. So here we go, sr.close, sw.close. I've also noticed two small syntax errors. I need to add an additional parenthesis on the end of my call to the WriteLine method, and then also I need to create a new instance of the contents as well. So we need to add those in. Just want to make sure you take a look at the source code for this example if you're trying to follow along. Additionally, what I want to do at the end here is just put a message box, show, and finished, just to let us know that it actually performed correctly. Let's run our application. Click our button and we get a finished. Let's open up our Windows Explorer and take a look. We do indeed have a text file called test2, and in that file we have -Jim Michaels -CEO and so on, so it worked just fine. So we've actually covered a lot of ground in just a few short minutes. We've been talking about text files. We talked about how to open them and read from them, how to iterate through them and grab each line, split it up into an array, and save a collection of arrays into an array list, how to iterate through that array list and grab out each one of the arrays and write the values from that array back into a separate file using a different format, which, by the way, is something that you may have to write sometime in the future, is to reformat data, take it from one source and change it somehow, and then save it back out to another file. And then finally learned how to close our readers and stream writer as well. In this video, I followed pretty closely to what the lesson text for Lesson 17 discussed. You'll find a more thorough discussion in the lesson there, as well as some additional readings that'll help you understand text files and arrays just a little bit better. And obviously, you'll want to do the exercise at the end so you can get your hands dirty and internalize some of the things that we've just been talking about. Thank you.